Let's take the balance of my time here in the next few minutes and talk about the seed cotton program. What I want to do, folks, I want y'all to I want to make sure you know what the heck this thing is, and then I want you to know how it's going to work, okay? Landowners and cotton producers have got some important decisions that have to be made, and we're going to talk about those. That's why we're doing this meeting, because decisions have to be made, and we want to make sure that y'all have good information and understand the program as best you can before you go into FSA and have to click on those buttons and make your decision, okay? All right. The seed cotton program is effective beginning with this year. This is the last year of the 14 Farm Bill. The seed cotton program started, and its intent was to bridge the gap between the 14 Farm Bill and the 18 Farm Bill. Under the 14 Farm Bill, cotton has no safety net, okay? Cotton is not eligible for ARC and PLC like peanuts and everything else, okay? The seed cotton program is designed to be a bridge between the current Farm Bill and the next Farm Bill. This thing becomes effective with this year's crop. This year's crop is the last year of the current Farm Bill, okay? So it becomes effective this year. Beginning with this year in 2018, there's no longer going to be generic base on a farm, okay? No longer going to be generic base, and we'll cover what you got to do with that. This makes seed cotton now a covered commodity, just like peanuts or corn or soybeans or wheat, and eligible for ARC or a PLC election, okay? This applies only to farms, and when I say farms, I mean farm serial numbers, and I know some of y'all could be farming a dozen or more, or dozens of farm serial numbers. This applies only to farms, or those farm serial numbers that you have that have generic base. Your farms that don't have generic base aren't even eligible for this program, okay? Only your farms that have generic base on it. This seed cotton program, which again becomes effective with this year, it's contained in both the House and Senate versions of the new Farm Bill. And the plan is, and all the expectations are, it'll be continued for 19 through 23 in the next Farm Bill. All right, eligibility. Again, the farm has to have generic base on it. This was old cotton base under the 08 Farm Bill, okay? What's now called generic base. All right, look at this second one. This is important. Even if a farm has generic base on it, if no cotton or any other covered commodity has been planted on that farm from 09 to 16, that farm is not eligible. And all the generic base on that farm will become what we call unassigned base. In other words, you just put that base in your back pocket and somehow that'll be dealt with in the future. We don't know what's going to happen to it. We don't know. Pardon me? FSN stands for Farm Serial Number. Question was what FSN stands for, Farm Serial Number. So you have to have generic base on the farm, but then also if the farm has generic base, you have to have planted at least 1 acre of some covered commodity between 09 and 16. If not, then that farm is not eligible for the program, and all the generic base on that farm will be converted to what we call unassigned base, and it'll no longer be eligible for ARC and PLC. So you got to have planted at least 1 acre of something. All right. The decisions that have to be made, okay, and we're going to talk about those. I'm going to try to walk you through some of the numbers and try to help you see what you have to take into account to make some of these decisions. All right. I said that effective this year in 2018, there's no longer generic base on a farm. If the farm has generic base or old cotton base on it, landowners have to decide, what do you want to do with it? You're given some options, and it's a one-time election that will carry forward into the next farm bill. You got to make that decision now. It's good for 18, and the anticipation is it will carry forward with this seed cotton program into the next 5 years of the next farm bill. Landowners have to decide, all right, how do you want to convert this generic base? And we're going to talk about what your options are. Very important. Producers have to choose between ARC or PLC. Okay. Most of the analysis and most of the work that I have seen deals with the PLC part of this. I have seen very little, if anything, with regard to ARC. The producers must choose between ARC and PLC. But most folks feel like PLC is the way to go. PLC, price loss coverage. ARC stands for agricultural risk coverage. So you have to choose between ARC and PLC. Okay, but again, most folks think PLC is the way to go, and the numbers I'm going to show you this morning are going to assume that PLC has been chosen. I'm going to show you an actual farm number, and we're going to walk through it. Number 3, the payment yield to be used on this PLC can be updated. Okay? If you've got a farm or farm serial number that's got generic base on it, remember, this is old cotton base under the 08 Farm Bill, okay? If that farm has got old cotton base, what we now call generic base on it, that farm also has what's called a CCP or a counter-cyclical payment yield also associated with that farm. It's based off that farm's cotton yield history. Okay, so if you've got a farm that's got generic base on it, it already has established for it something called a CCP yield. This is the yield that counter-cyclical payments were based on under the 08 Farm Bill. You can use that yield for your seed cotton program, or you could update that yield to 90% of your average yield for 08 to 12. If that's higher, that's what you want to do. Let me encourage you to please dig into this and try to do that. Some of these CCP yields on our farms are pretty low. Pretty low. It's going to be a lot of work. I mean, you got to go back to 8 to 12 to dig out the records, whether it's from crop insurance or whatever. This may be on a rented farm that was under a different producer back then. It's going to be work, but if you can do it, do it. It may make all the difference in what option that you decide to go to. That'll become more clear to you as we look here the next few minutes. So, what are the decisions that have to be made? You got to decide what you're going to do with generic base. You got to choose ARC or PLC. You got to update your payment yields if you can. And then lastly, the farm's actually got to be enrolled in the program. That's 4 things. Okay. And the bar down here at the bottom is kind of blocking that last block down there. But the deadline to do all this is December 7th. Okay, December 7th. All right. You say, okay, Don, what are my options? Okay. Here's what you can do, what you've got to do with your generic base. Again, effective with this 2018 crop year, there's no longer generic base. You got to convert it. Here's what you can do. Your first option is to select the higher of options 1A or 1B. Okay, well, what the heck is that? All right, 1A would make your seed cotton base equal to 80% of your generic base. Okay. Option 1B would make your seed cotton base equal to your average acres of cotton planted from 09 to 12. But it'll be capped at whatever your generic base is. If you got 100 acres of generic base on your farm, but you average planting 120 acres of cotton on that farm from 09 to 12, under option 1B, how many acres of seed cotton base could you have? Just 100, because that's all the generic base you got to deal with. So your first choice is to take the higher of 1A or 1B, either 80% of your base or the average acres planted from 09 to 12. If there's any remaining generic base left under 1A or 1B, and there'd be 20% of it up there under 1A. Under 1B, you don't know, it depends on your acres planted. But any generic base that's remaining under 1A or 1B would become what we call unassigned base and not eligible for ARC and PLC. You say, well, what's that mean, Mr. Don? Well, it means whatever that unassigned base is, let's call that hip pocket base. You stick it in your pocket and we don't know. We do not know what will happen to it. Will you be able to convert it later on? Will you be able to add it back? Will you lose it? We don't know. Okay. All right. Or you can choose option 2. Option 2 would look at the acres of covered commodities, not everything, not watermelons or everything else. It would look at your acres of covered commodities planted on that farm from 09 to 12. And it would allocate your generic base proportionately by the acres planted. There would be no unassigned base. And again, I'm going to run through some actual farm numbers and show you how this works. So the bottom line is this. If you choose option 1, either A or B, all you're going to get is seed cotton base. If that's what you want, boom, that's what you're going to go with. Under option 2, depending on your acres planted history, it's possible, you would get not only seed cotton base, but you might also earn some additional base of other covered commodities, if that's what you planted. Depends on your planting history. So under option 1, either A or B, whichever one's higher, all you're going to get is seed cotton base. Under option 2, you're going to get seed cotton base if you planted cotton from 09 to 12. But if you planted other stuff from 09 to 12, you're going to earn some of that base too, like peanuts or corn or whatever. So basically the choice is, do you want just seed cotton base, or do you want a mix of seed cotton base and other things?
If you were a person on that too.
Well, we assume the farm's got generic base, right? Okay. If you're a first-time cotton grower, if you've never grown cotton before, if the farm's got generic base but you've never grown cotton before, then I'm assuming that you've grown some other cover commodities before, like peanuts or whatever, so you would still be eligible. Okay, you'd be eligible for the program. Whether you go with option 1 or 2 or not, again, would depend on what you expect the pay prices and payments to be. And we're going to talk about that. So, you know, how do you make the decision? You got to kind of think about where you expect prices to go, what you expect payments to be, and that sort of thing. And I'm going to walk you through some numbers. All right. You have already received or will receive something that looks like this. Raise your hand if you have. Okay. You already have, more than likely, and if not, you will receive something that looks like this. This is called a history report, a history summary report. You get one of these for each farm, and it shows you your acres planted, what we call P and CP, planted and considered planted history on that particular farm serial number. This is an actual farm from Jenkins County, Georgia. Okay. And it shows the history. I'm blanking out the farm number here. But it shows the history of corn, peanuts, and cotton. Those were the covered commodities planted on that farm. Now, please note, it starts in 2008. Okay, this history report summary that you're going to get goes from 08 to 12. The reason they do that is because, I would assume the reason that that's done is because you've got to make a yield decision based on those years also. But please understand, this is your history from 08 to 12. But your generic base decisions are based on just 9 through 12, okay? Just 9 through 12. So you can see here what the acres planted were on this farm for their history for 2009 to 2012. Okay, and they planted 3 crops, corn, peanuts, and soybeans, not every year necessarily, but planted at some point during those 4 years. All right, so there's your history. Let me back up. All right. So on this history report, there's your generic base. Okay, this farm's got 101.8 acres of generic base. And there's the counter-cyclical yield. There's the CCP yield on the farm currently at 797. Okay. And then, as I just showed in the previous slide, here's your history from 09 to 12. So y'all raised your hand. You tell me you've already got this. I just wanted to make sure that we understood what you were looking at. There's your generic base. There's the counter-cyclical payment yield on the farm as it currently stands on those base acres. And here's your P and CP history. All right. Boy, I hate to bring this up because I know I've got FSA in here, and the last thing I want to do, absolutely last thing I want to do is create headache and extra work for those folks. I've worked with FSA a lot, and I have for over almost 30 years. You know, these folks are got a heavy workload and they're understaffed. The last thing I want to do is to have every farmer listening to me this morning to go rushing into FSA and say, ooh, print me out one of those that Dr. Shurley was showing us. I understand that, okay? But at the same time, my job is to educate and try to help you understand. So let me tell you what we're looking at. And I wish this darn bar down at the bottom would disappear. All right. All right. Okay. Well, it'd be better if it was way out in left field somewhere.
I know. I can't get rid of it because we're recording. And it doesn't let you.
It won't minimize.
No, that's not.
Don't worry about it.
I don't know. I just move it out
keep
here.
going.
I just move it up here.
All right. Okay. That's good. That's good. That's good. All right. Okay. All right. I'd rather you not see the title of the slides than what's down there at the bottom. All right. So, all right. Okay. Now I've lost my slide prompt. Now I can't move my slides. We're going to get this right. Maybe we'll move forward. We'll move forward or backwards.
Oh, not again. Okay.
Y'all want to talk about the Georgia-Florida game while we're waiting?
There we go. I don't know.
But now the bar's gone too, so we're good.
Yeah, we got rid of that too, then. All right.
All right,
We're good.
fantastic, fantastic. Everybody give Doug a hand. All right. Okay, so you got one of these. Everybody got what's called a history summary report by farm, okay? And we understand what's on there. It shows you your history of acres planted, what the generic base is on that farm, and your CCP yield as it currently stands. All right. Now, you will not get one of these, but
we can't see the slides over here in Walton County.
That's why the way I stopped hearing. Technology stuff. Okay, now we're sharing it and they can
Okay.
see it, but the bar's back.
all right, very good. All right. This is what we call a screen print. FSA has the software where they can go in and pull up this farm and show you what your generic base conversion options are. Okay? They have the software where they can go in and pull this up for you. I hate to even mention it, but I've had several producers in Georgia who have sent stuff like this to me, And I kind of did some digging, found out where it came from. This is actually just a screenshot. It's a shot of the computer screen whenever FSA pulled up the software. So we need to take a few minutes and explain what the heck this is, okay? And I hate the way it's formatted, and I don't like the terminology that's being used. It's completely poor and it's confusing, but it is what it is, okay? You can't make sense out of this, okay? I couldn't when I first looked at it. But you have to, if you want something like this, then you need to be able to kind of look at it and make some sense out of it. So let me show you what you're looking at. Right up here, this is called the base method. This is for seed cotton only. So this is option 1A. And over here, they call it the planted acres method. This is option 1B. So let's look at the numbers. Under option 1A, they took the generic base, which was 101.8 acres, and multiplied it by 80%, and you get roughly 81.5 acres of seed cotton base. So that's what you would get under 1A. Under 1B, and this is completely confusing, this is based on the planted acres method. Well, we averaged planting 104 acres of cotton on this farm from 09 to 12. But up here, it says 2009 through 12 average upland cotton acres planted at 101.8. Why the heck is that? Yeah, that's all the generic base you're going to earn under 1B, but that's not what it says. It says this is the average acres planted. It's not the average acres planted. It's the amount of generic base you will earn under 1B. Very poor and very confusing. Okay? So, the reason it gave you 101.8 here is because your acres planted was more than the generic base that you have. You with me? So you got 1A, option 1A would give you 81.44 acres of seed cotton base. That's 80% of your generic base. Option 1B would give you, as we said before, your average acres planted in cotton from 09 to 12, but under the condition that it can't exceed the amount of generic base that you have. That's why it's showing you 101.8. But it's confusing as heck. Okay? Now, let's look down here at the bottom. Okay, here's what's happening. Each year, all right, here's your planting history right here. This is your planting history. And for that planting history, 09 to 12, it takes each crop's acres as percent of the total and gives you that percentage right there. You see it? It gives you that percentage. So, based on your acres planted, that's the proportion of each crop that you average planting from 09 to 12. What option 2 would do would be to take that proportion and split out your generic base by the same amount. That's what you see right here. That's what this is. This takes these percentages and multiplies it by the 101.8 acres of generic base. And it says, okay, if you elect option 2, this is how your generic base will be split up. You'll get 58.5 acres of seed cotton, 25 acres of peanut base, 18 acres of corn base. Okay. This is the column, this is the column right here that you need to look at and make your decision off of. You compare this column's acres. Okay, do you want option 1A or B or 2? You're going to compare this column right here, this generic base contribution. You're going to compare this column to the higher of 1A or 1B. And you say, well, whoa, Mr. Don, over here it says reallocated base acres. What that is, they took what's called farm records base, which is the bases you already got on that farm, adds the new base that you could add under option 2 and totals them together and come up with something called reallocated base acres. But that ain't what it is. That's not what it is at all. It's just your total bases that would be on the farm if you elected option 2. But this column is completely immaterial to the decision. That column has nothing to do with this decision at all. It's completely confusing. That don't even need to be there. Your decision is going to be, all right, option 1, you would take the higher of 1A or 1B. In this case, that's going to be 1B. Right? You with me? So for this farm, I'm going to select the high. My choice is the higher of 1A or 1B, which is going to be 1B in this case, or option 2, which is going to be this column right here. Okay? So how do you make that decision? Here's how they compare. You got option 1A and 1B, and then option 2. Based on this planting history, here's what your choices are. So since option 1B results in higher seed cotton base than option 1A, then you're going to select 1B. And you would compare 1B to option 2. So your choice is, do I want this? Or do I want this? How do you decide? Well, which one do you think is going to make you the most money? You say, well, I don't know, Mr. Don, you're the economist. You tell me. I can't tell you. But here's what I can do. All right. I'm going to show you how they compare. But before we get there, and I got about 10 minutes, before we get there, let's make sure we understand where the payments are going to come from. Okay? All right. If y'all grow peanuts, those of you that grow peanuts and have peanut base, y'all know how PLC works. PLC pays if what we call the market year average price is less than what's called the reference price. The reference price on peanuts is $5.35 a ton. So when do you get a PLC payment on peanuts? If the market's below $5.35, you get a check for the difference. That's how PLC works. All right, so keep that in mind, and let's think about the seed cotton program. The market year average price for this seed cotton program is going to be a weighted average between cotton, the lint, and cotton seed. It's a combo. It's a weighted average price between both of those. And you say, well, what's weighted mean? We take the total U.S. production of upland cotton, of just upland cotton, not all cotton, and then the total U.S. production of all cottonseed. And then we do a little math to come up with cotton's portion and cottonseed's portion of that total production and multiply that by the price of each. Okay? And I'm not going to take time to go through all the math. Again, I just want you to understand that it's a weighted average price based on actual production of both cotton and cottonseed. Okay? It's a weighted average market price. All right? Based on those numbers that I didn't show you, but the calculations that we did, we're looking at, let's suppose that this seed cotton program had been in effect for 2017, for example. All right? The market year average price for upland cotton in 2017 was 68 cents. That's the U.S. average price. It's not the Florida price, it's not the Georgia price, it is a U.S. average price for upland cotton. That was for 17. The market year average price for cotton seed was $139 a ton. I don't know about y'all, but if you're a Georgia grower, you were about $15 a ton below that. But this is a U.S. average price. That would have been 6.9 cents a pound. So here's what we do. We take the 68 cents, which was the market year average price for cotton, multiply it by cotton's percentage of the total production of both lint and seed that I just calculated from the previous slide. And then take the price of seed, cottonseed, multiply it by its percentage, and add them together, and you come up, this is your market year average price right here, for what it would have been for 17 had this program been in effect. The reference price on peanuts is what, $5.35 we said? All right. The reference price on seed cotton is 36.7. Now that 36.7 don't look too swift until you understand how it's calculated, till you understand what's going on. The reference price for seed cotton is 36.7 cents. That's less, the market year average price is less than that. So you subtract the market year average price from your reference price, and for 17, we would have got a payment of 3.47 cents per pound had this program been in effect. And you get that payment on your seed cotton yield on 85% of your base. All right. Your seed cotton yield, look at this. Your seed cotton payment yield is that 2013 CCP yield I showed y'all on this farm, which was what, 797, something like that. What you're going to get paid this PLC on in seed cotton is that countercyclical payment yield or the updated yield, whichever one that you go with, whichever's higher, times 2.4. Times 2.4. So that's why it's important for you to get that CCP yield updated if you can. Is it going to be easy? Nope. It never is, because you got to dig back, you know, a minimum of 5 or 6 years here for records. But if you can do it, it's worth it. Okay, it'll make all the difference in the world. All right. These are some examples of what this seed cotton payment would look like. You've got price of cotton running down this way. You got the price of cottonseed running across this way. We're assuming an 850 pound, again, this is just for example, showing y'all how the numbers would look. Based on an 850 pound countercyclical yield, either what's on the farm now or an updated one, okay? You take your CCP yield times 2.4, and there's your seed cotton PLC yield right there. So what this table shows you, and this is available in a spreadsheet, by the way, and I'd be happy for you to have it. I'll be glad to send it to you. It's a very simple little spreadsheet. And based on this seed cotton yield, you got price of cotton running down this way, price of cottonseed running across the top. And then the table itself shows you the money, the PLC, seed cotton PLC payment per acre. And you would get that on 85% of whatever your seed cotton base is, depending on which option that you select. So if we take 70-cent cotton, for example, as a U.S. average, and say 140 or let's say $150 a ton for seed, then the estimated payment would be roughly $54 an acre, based on that yield. Now, if your yield's much different than that, obviously the number is different. Okay, and we draw a line right through here somewhere. There's all the zeros down here. These are the combinations that would get you nothing. Okay, so if cotton gets back up in the mid-70s or higher, and particularly if the price of cottonseed also starts to get back up, then where's your payment go? Yeah, ain't got one. Exactly. Okay.
I think might be playing it that way.
I don't know. You know, I'm glad. I don't know about y'all. I'm glad to see 80 or 90-cent cotton, regardless of what the program is or isn't. Okay. We're farming for the market, not for the program. All right. Very quickly, because I'm out of time. This is a table that I pulled out of our University of Georgia Extension, i.e. Don Shurley, developed a decision aid that's been out there since March. And it's available online, and you can pull it down. These are the prices that we've got. Here's the way we analyzed it. And to me, this is the only way to look at it, okay? There are some people that get paid a lot of money to predict where prices are going to go. And the fact is, nobody knows, okay? If China wakes up tomorrow and decides they're going to slap another 10% tariff on cotton, what happens? We don't. Nobody knows where the market's going, but I can tell you this, and this is the way that we analyzed it. We went back to 2014, okay? Yeah. MYA, market year average price. I'm sorry, market year average price. All right, here's what we did, and here's the way to analyze it. We don't know where prices are going in the future. But here's the question we asked. Let's suppose this seed cotton program had been in effect for the entire period of the last 5 years of the current farm bill. Okay? If we'd had this seed cotton program in place back when ARC and PLC started back in 2014, what would have been the payments? Okay, so what we're doing, we went back 14 to 18, these are estimated and projected payments out here based on projected and estimated prices. But you can see the prices that we've got in here for cotton and cottonseed, okay? With the understanding that these 2 years right here are a little bit of a question mark. This one a big question mark, but that's what USDA's got right now for projections. Based on those prices, here's what the weighted average market year average price would have been, and then what the payment would have been, what the PLC payment would have been. Okay? PLC, price loss coverage. Here's what the PLC payment would have been. And then down here, the same thing for peanuts. We've got the price of peanuts for the last 5 years, including this year, and then what the PLC payment would have been for that, based on those numbers. Now, I ran this farm I just showed y'all through our UGA decision aid. And these are the numbers that we came out with. And this is a typical situation. And this is why your decision is going to be so tough. I told the National Cotton Council when they started coming out with this stuff, I said, in the Southeast, it's going to be a tough decision. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. All right. This is a page out of our decision aid using the numbers for this farm, this Jenkins County, Georgia farm that I just showed y'all. I'm assuming that we'll keep the 797 CCP on the farm because that's what it is now, and the yield update decision hasn't been made by this grower. So let's keep the 797 for now. You multiply the CCP yield times 2.4, that would be your seed cotton payment yield right there. I am assuming 3,900 pounds PLC payment yield on peanuts. Is that a number I pulled out of the sky? Yeah, but I don't think it's too low. It's certainly not too high. But again, we're basing this on 90% of 08 to 12, okay? So some of y'all might have been getting 2.5 or 3 tons on irrigated peanuts or whatever in recent years. That don't factor in. If you do the yield update, it's on, well, you can't do a yield update on peanuts right now. So it is what it is. So I am assuming a 3,900 pound peanut PLC. Okay. All right, let me tell you what you're looking at. Right here is 1B. 1B would give us our whole generic base in seed cotton. And here's our PLC payment yield. And based on those prices that I just showed y'all in the previous slide, this is what the total seed cotton PLC money would have been over those 5 years had the program been in place then. I can't tell you where prices are going, but if the program had been effective, and if the next 5 years are similar to the last 5 years, this is what the money will be. And there's the amount per year. Here's option 2. Option 2 is going to give you some seed cotton base, but less. Why is that? Because you're going based on your planting history, and you planted some peanuts and corn during that time also. So do you want seed cotton base only, or do you want to split it up? Based on option 2, again, there's our assumed PLC yields for both cotton and peanuts. I'm not considering corn right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. based on those yields, here's what the PLC payment money would have been over the 5 years. And then the total for seed cotton and for peanuts together, there's your total. And that excludes corn. Please note, all this is looking at is cotton and peanuts. It doesn't account for anything else that you're growing. Okay? So what this shows is that over the previous 5 years, I would have averaged about $5,200 a year in payments on option 1B. That was just seed cotton, because that's all you got. Under option 2, I would have averaged about $2,000 less in seed cotton PLC, but what did I do? I picked up $4,700 average per year in peanut PLC. So the total is about $2,500 more per year than under option 1B. Okay, and we're not even considering corn yet. The reason corn's not in here and no other crop is in here is because if y'all are like most growers, corn, soybeans, peanuts, all those crops are in ARC, and that depends on county yields and everything else, and it's too much to throw in here. All I can tell you is, based on these numbers, option 2 is about $2,500 a year more money, plus any ARC coming in from other crops that we're not even considering here. You with me? All right. Let me summarize, because I'm into John's time, and I apologize, John. All right. From a purely risk management perspective, and this is just Don talking, okay? If you look at this just purely from a risk management perspective, old Don thinks your crop bases ought to be close to what you plant, because we don't know the future. Nobody can tell you where prices are going to go. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen to these reference prices. What if they come in and cut the reference price on peanuts? I don't think they will. I'm not saying they will. I'm just tossing that out. From a purely risk management standpoint, I think your crop bases ought to be close to what you plant. This seed cotton program is good. It's very good. It's a good safety net. If you normally plant 700 acres of cotton a year, but you make all these decisions and you total it all up across your farms and you only end up with 400 acres of cotton base, let's say. That ain't much of a safety net for 700 acres of actual planted cotton. But look at bullet number 2. You know, this seed cotton program, for as good as it is, and it's good, as long as that PLC reference price on peanuts is at $5.35, there's nothing else that's going to touch it. It don't come close. That's just the pure facts. And I told Cotton Council people that. That's what makes our decision here in the Southeast so difficult. Okay. Try to update your cotton yield if you can. That would be a key component to this. I'm familiar with and I realize the struggles and the debate that y'all have been through on the peanut program. I'm aware of that. I understand that. If you have got a farm that's got generic base on it, and it has to have generic base to even be eligible for this. If you've got a farm that's got generic base on it, and you've been growing peanuts, but you don't have any peanut base, here's a chance to earn something through option 2. Okay, option one would only give you seed cotton base. But if you have a 09 to 12 planting history of peanuts and you got no peanut base on that farm, then option two would give you an opportunity to convert some of that generic base into peanut base that you don't already have, okay? The future of this unassigned base is not known. We don't know that. There's nothing in the new Farm Bill language that I've seen that addresses what the future of unassigned base will be. So we don't know. We don't know the ability to, will we have any opportunities to update or reallocate bases again in the future? We don't know, and if so, when. And as I mentioned before, the future of reference prices and these payment limits, those are unknown as well, and those are important factors in this. Okay. All right. That's hopefully that's going to, number one, give y'all some information that you didn't have before or that you were unclear on. Hopefully the last hour or so has helped. And then secondly, hopefully this will give you a few extra tidbits to kind of help you make the decisions that you've got to make over the next several months.